Hey, it's Katrina. I'm here with a message before the actual podcast starts because this episode was supposed to be coming in a few episodes from now, a few weeks later, but I wanted to share it now because of what happened this past weekend. On June 14th, there was a massive day of protest, the No King's Day protests all over the country of the United States and overseas and in some territories of the US. And there were over 5 million people protesting. And according to some statistics I saw, that is the most protesters in history of the United States. So there's a major, major turning point right now. And I thought now is the best time to release this episode that's about when the world feels too dark and too heavy, because there's a lot happening right now. I also wanted to say that I recorded this episode in January. It's been a long time. It's been waiting and waiting to be released. And so be aware that as I'm speaking in the episode that's about to play, it's from that point of view of January. Now, that was the very beginning of the Trump regime. And this episode isn't about politics necessarily. It's just about that feeling of like, wow, the world is in chaos and it feels so dark and there's so much going on that feels so terrorizing and so terrible. And it helps you understand these things from the higher perspective, from like the soul level, not just the human. Of course, we feel a lot of fear about what's happening in the world. We feel a lot of anger, and that's completely a normal and legitimate response. But there are some messages that really are important to hear right now that are from a higher perspective that I received in meditation back in January. Lastly, I want to mention that I do guide a practice in this episode, like I do every episode. I like to guide some type of practice to help you connect with your inner power and your intuition. And in this case, it involves looking back at a time in your life that felt very heavy and dark, maybe a time that was very challenging for you. And what you're doing in this practice is you're gaining wisdom, you're gaining the learning, the messages about what this experience taught you. Now, if that feels too tender for you, if that feels too triggering for you, then don't do it. Just skip that little short 5-minute practice. And I'm going to put the timestamp in the show notes so you know when the practice happens and you can skip it. You can just listen to the messages that come through. The majority of the episode is intuitive messages, and it's really important that these are heard. So if you're here, I think you're meant to hear them. Okay, so be aware this was recorded back in January. It now is the perfect time to release it. And I would love to hear your comments if you want to send me a message or write a comment or share the episode and enjoy. Welcome to the Truer podcast. I am your host, Katrina Slade. I am a way shower, a soul igniter. I'm a psychic reader and a teacher, and I cannot wait to tell you the messages that I have received for this episode. I decided to create this episode. It's about when the world feels too heavy or too dark, because I know a lot of us are going through this right now. And it's so fear-inducing, and I want to give you some messages to help you move forward with some relief and some higher perspective. But before we get into this, I invite you to just check in with yourself. I know you can be listening to a podcast while you're busy, while you're driving, while you're doing stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But if you have a moment, I invite you to just put your hand on your heart and just breathe into your heart space. Taking a deep breath in, breathing in calm and peace. And a slow breath out, releasing all that needs to go. Deep breath in, breathing in calm and peace. And a slow breath out. Just connecting to the heart space. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a message with you that I received in my meditation from my guides about this topic. Then I'm going to guide you through a little practice that you can do whenever you have time. You don't have to do it at this exact moment. And then I'll just give you a little bit more of a message so you can have a better understanding of what you're meant to know right now about this feeling that the world feels very dark and heavy. So when I meditated on this, I'm always shown things symbolically. So I was shown just like the energy of this feeling, and it looked like I was standing outside and the sky was really dark from this storm coming in, and off in the distance there was like a whole bunch of tornadoes. So there was a lot of fear of total devastation. And I think that's the fear we have when we see things happening in the world that feel bad and feel heavy and dark. It's this fear of total devastation, like, oh no, something really bad is going to happen. That's how it feels. So it's like when a natural disaster strikes, like a hurricane or fires, it's really sad and really scary because there is devastation. And this is so frustrating because the reason the world feels so dark and heavy is because humans caused a lot of things that contribute to this, right? So it's really frustrating because it feels like you might be enraged or you might be in despair over the state of what humans are doing to the world. This could be the environment or in the politics. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that feels this way, that feels like there's tornadoes coming and destroying things, right? And so that's just the vibe I was picking up, the vision I was shown. And so I asked in my meditation, well, what do we need to know about this feeling? Or just what do we need to know? And I was shown that if you can zoom out, here we are in the now. Imagine that we're almost looking at ourselves from a bird's eye view, like from above, and you can zoom up and up and up and up and out so that you're seeing your whole lifetime from above. And you can zoom out even more and you're seeing the whole time span of humanity from the beginning to now. And then you can zoom out even more and you can see the earth before there were even humans. And there's this long, long, long history of existence before now and before humans even. And I was shown that these cycles of total devastation or destruction are actually natural. And I don't really like saying that because I get in despair and sad and horrified when I see things happening. At the time of this recording, there's terrible forest fires in California, and I don't even want to get into the politics in the US. It's really dark and scary. But if you can zoom out and see it from the high perspective, it's these things happen over and over again. And it's actually like a death and a rebirth. There's aspects of the world. See Earth, see the world as like one being, one entity, the living being. And let's just call her Mother Earth. And she's going through these cycles of destruction and rebirth and destruction and growth and death and rebirth. And this is bringing us, not us specifically, but this is bringing about shedding of the old and a birth of the new. And sometimes that comes in a difficult way. Okay, now I'm being shown. Recently, I did a reading for my membership, the Becoming True membership. I did a group reading for the year 2025. And I'll just share this with you if you weren't there. By the way, you can join the membership and then you can get access to this reading because it's still there. But I was shown that for 2025, it's almost like when tectonic plates grind against each other and it causes earthquakes, and that can cause tsunamis. I was shown there's going to be some of that happening But I was also shown, for some reason, it's like we're jumping from one timeline to another. There's going to be that chafing, uncomfortable earthquake energy. This is symbolic, of course, but it's almost like we're jumping from one tectonic plate to the next, like one piece of land to the next, and we're going to be in a new territory at some point in 2025. I can't remember at what point in the year that was off the top of my head. But if you're interested in learning more about this, there was actually a lot of good information that came through about actionable steps you can take. And there's more context to that message. So if you're interested, you should check out the Becoming True membership. I'm going to link it in the show notes, and you are welcome to take a look at that, because that is a group reading for all the members of the Becoming True membership, past, present, and future. I'm telling you this because it's helpful to understand, right? There can't be a baby born without the painful labor. Now, some people can have less painful labor than others, but there's a labor involved. And what we're going through right now that feels so dark and heavy, if you can see it from the higher perspective and see the impact it's going to have in the future, it's actually not all doom and gloom. It's going to impact the future in ways we can't even understand. And that doesn't mean that what's happening right now is okay. There's always been, this is also a message I received when I meditated on this. There's always been self-serving people who grab onto power and are greedy, and just, they cause a lot of harm. And that's been the case always. Like, think of Genghis Khan, think of the Roman Empire, the British Empire with colonization. There's always these big periods of time, these big people who are power hungry, these big situations where people are oppressed, people are traumatized, people are killed because of these self-serving powers. And I'm sorry to say that's just the reality of this world. But also, those don't last forever. Those aren't the permanent status of the world forever. The Roman Empire fell. And in fact, just for a moment, I'll mention the politics of the US. I saw a headline or something the other day where somebody was calling it the United States Empire. Oh, I'm here for the fall of the United States Empire. American Empire? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It really struck me as so true, because I was reminded of the Roman Empire and how that was like the world superpower for so long. And it came to an end. And it came to an end not overnight, but over, I don't know, probably decades. There were things that happened. And by the end of, when some people in power sense that they're losing it, they cling on even harder. Let's just say that this isn't going to last forever. There's some reason we can't see it yet. We're not God. We're not able to see the full history of infinity. So we can't see why it's happening, except if we can trust that this is part of a longer cycle. Actually, what I think this is the end of one cycle and the birth of a new cycle. But we're in that messy middle part that's like the painful labor, or like the earthquake with the tectonic plates chafing against each other. If we can see one tectonic plate is the old and one is the new, and they're rubbing together and there's an earthquake, that's the period we're in. And it's not fun. Now, I do want to mention for a moment, there are a lot of people who like to say, oh, well, reality isn't real and it's all an illusion and we're all connected to God anyway, and love and light. And a lot of that's true, but it doesn't help us in the now when we're having anxiety and despair over what's happening. I just want to give you permission to feel your feelings, because actually that's one of the most important things you can do. If you're avoiding your feelings of fear and anxiety, and if you're suppressing them, they're just going to go into the body, into your tissues, into your cells at a deep cellular level. And eventually it's going to come out in a problem, in a disease, or it's going to have a flare up of some kind that you don't want. So it's really important to acknowledge and sit with your feelings, sit with your despair if you're feeling despair, or your fear, whatever that is, and just allow it to breathe. In fact, I'm just going to be vulnerable for a minute. The other day, I had a really bad day with my mood. I had experienced another flare up of my chronic illness. And I don't even want to use the word my chronic illness because I think that links it together with me. I just want to say I had another flare up of a chronic illness. And it was really painful and really frustrating. And it was happening at the same time as a lot of bad stuff happening in the world. And I was just in so much despair. I just cried. I had 3 episodes of bursting into tears and sobbing and really feeling my feels. And every time after I cried and said what I needed to say, I was telling my husband how I was feeling, and he's such a champion. He sat with me and held my hand the whole time, and he didn't leave. I'm so grateful for him. But I said what I needed to say and I let it out. And at one point I was even like punching my pillow because I knew I needed to get it out in that way, somatically through the body. And after every time I expressed it and let it out, I felt so much better. And I felt like I really processed things. It kind of was pent up. It was building and building until I had this release, and then it released a lot. So it's really important to acknowledge and honor your feelings and sit with them and let them be expressed so that you can, I don't want to say move on, but so that you can live your life without holding it all. Like I feel right now when I said that I saw somebody like trying to juggle 50 balls at once, and it's too much. And if you can just set down some of them by acknowledging them, expressing them, processing them, and then saying, okay, that I'm done with that for now, then it's a lot easier to live your life. I'm shown that I'm almost afraid to say this because it can be taken the wrong way, but I want to say this is what I was shown in the meditation I did about this topic is everything that plays out in the world, or everything that plays out in the individual's life, it's part of their soul plan. We all are souls. If you look at it from the soul perspective, we are all souls, and we chose to be born at this time, in this family, in this culture, with this society happening all around us. Everything that plays out in your life in a large scale, it's part of your soul plan. Your soul came here to learn and to grow. And in fact, all souls are here with a soul curriculum. People can call it a soul contract, your soul plan. Your soul chose these elements of your life so that you can have certain experiences. And these are opportunities for learning and growth and evolving is the word. And I'm sorry to say that includes oppression and trauma and the full spectrum of the human experience. And it's not a nice thing to think about, but this is true. We are all going through what we are meant to be going through, even if it's hard, even if it's scary. And so if you can see it from the soul perspective, it's all about learning. And the most important thing is how you respond to what's happening in your life or what's happening in the world. How you respond is the key. And at this point, I was shown an example of the life of Oprah Winfrey. Most of us know her story, but let me just share a little bit about it from what I know. Is she was born into a family that had a lot of trauma, generational trauma. And I think her mother didn't even let her live in their house. She had to sleep on the porch because she had so much childhood neglect and abuse. She was not in a loving family. So she comes from a history, a childhood of abuse and trauma. And I'm sure it's intergenerational. And when she was 14, she gave birth to a baby that was a stillborn. She was going through a lot of abuse, a lot of difficult experiences, and then that would be one of the worst experiences a human can go through, right? Losing a child, and at that young age. So I'm saying that because we all know who she is now and what she's done and what she's served a great purpose in this world, and she's impacted so many people. And I'm not saying we're all going to be like that, but this is just the example that came to me about how you respond to that heaviness and that darkness is key.
So she chose to respond in a way, or I should say, she was able to. Not everybody has the ability to do this. It might take them multiple lifetimes to get there, but she was able to respond to her circumstances in a way that was very empowering. She's lived her life from a very empowered place despite her challenging origins. Think about that from a global scale or from your personal life scale. I also feel called to share an example from my life. I hope this helps. I actually can't remember if I've shared this before in a previous episode. Maybe I have. I probably have, but I just felt called to share this right now related to this topic. When I was in middle school, it's so hard, people. It's so hard. When I was in middle school, my world really turned upside down when my best friends, who now I can look back and see that they were jealous of me, but my best friends suddenly became my bullies, and they were really mean girls, and whatever reasons they had, but they bullied me really bad, and they manipulated my friend group and turned all of them against me for no reason. At that age, it's devastating to lose your friend group because that is your life, right? So I was devastated, and I'm not going to go into it further than that, but I'm sharing that because it's not quite the same as Oprah's story. And I know a lot of us, a lot of you have lived much worse trauma, and this isn't a competition, but I'm sharing that because now I can see all of the learning that has come from that very difficult experience. And in fact, I'm just going to call it trauma. That was a trauma because it changed my whole life. The learning that has come from that is from the shadow work I've done, and I'm still doing it. So this is just an example. Remember, I'm sharing this example to show you about how you respond is key. It might not even be in the moment, right? In the moment, I just responded by crying and being depressed. And that was a fair response, right? Today, I have gained a lot of learning and healing from that experience because I've done my shadow work, and I understand now that I have this fear of shining my light in the world. I have a fear of shining too brightly because when I do, this inner voice tells me it's not safe. You're going to get attacked, or your life is going to be ruined because of that. So now I know that where that voice is coming from. Inside, it's coming from that terrible experience I had. I know that fear is from that trauma. So that's where shadow work comes in. You can understand, you can get to the root of something, like, why am I so afraid to make this podcast? Why am I so afraid to just talk about things and share my stories and all of that? It's because you were traumatized and trained that if you shine your light too bright, you're going to get hurt bad. And there's like past life traumas from there too. I'm not going to get into that, but that's just an example of I'm learning now how to heal that. Now that I've done the work to identify the root cause, I can work with that. Now I'd like to guide you in a practice, and it's going to involve a little mini shadow work session. So if you're not into it, that's okay. Just skip to the end because I have some final comments I'd love to make. I have some notes here that I need to share at the end of this, but just like skip the next 5 minutes or so if you're not into this. But if you have a moment, I invite you to just pause what you're doing if you can. And if you can't, come back to this later. Pause what you're doing. And I invite you to just, once again, put your hands on your heart. Taking a deep breath in, breathing in calm and peace. And a slow breath out, releasing all that needs to go. Deep breath in and slow breath out. And in your mind's eye, just bring forward or invite forward something from your past, an experience you had in your past that felt very dark and heavy at the time. And consider now, what did it teach me? What did that experience teach me? It might be some heartbreak, grief, some trauma. It's okay, just noticing, what did that experience teach me? For example, if you had a heartbreak as a younger person, maybe it taught you independence. Or if you had grief, let's say somebody you loved passed away, maybe it taught you the importance of loving relationships. And let's just bless that experience. Let's just shower that experience with white light. Imagine you're pouring white light over that experience. We're blessing that experience and we're thanking it for the learning. And now think of your current life. And what feels dark and heavy for you now? It might be the outer world. It might be something in your personal life. What feels dark and heavy right now? Bringing that forward in your mind's eye. And you can ask, what is the opportunity for growth and learning in this experience that I'm having? What is the opportunity for growth and learning? What might this be teaching me? Just allowing the truth to come forward. And if you really don't know, just set an intention. Say, I set the intention to be shown what learning I am meant to gain from this experience. And maybe it'll come to you later. Maybe you'll have a light bulb, aha moment at some point. And let's just shower this experience, or shower ourselves with white light. Thanking ourselves for taking this moment to do this work. Giving ourselves the opportunity for enlightenment, for healing, by digging into the shadows. And when you feel like you've come to a completion, take a deep breath in and a slow breath out. That was just a little mini shadow work practice, and it's really good to be gentle with yourself. So if you feel a little upset or a little triggered by that, do something gentle and kind for yourself later today and give yourself so much love. And I have some final comments I'd like to make, because when I was meditating on this, I was shown a final message to share with you. And I was shown that whatever it is that feels dark and scary in the world or in your life, it may cause you to shrink back, to hide your light, to dim your light from fear. And I was shown it's only you doing that is natural. It's a natural response, but it's only allowing that darkness to grow. And what I was shown is almost like zooming out and seeing the whole world as an entity, as a being, like I said earlier, and just understanding that the world, Mother Earth, and humanity too, we need more of us choosing to heal and find our inner power. We need more of us to pull ourselves out of that stress response from we're stuck in freeze mode, or we're stuck in fight or flight mode. We're being triggered every day by these things that can feel very dark and heavy. But if we can choose to respond in a way that brings healing and helps us connect to our inner power, which is really our true self, then that's what we need more of in this world. I don't want to say we're not letting the darkness win. It's not quite that, but it's like we need more of the light. And the light is being empowered, connected to your true self, connected to your inner light. And I'm just going to say that if you don't know where to begin, I invite you to check out the Becoming True membership. There's a lot of meditations in there. There's energy healings. There's monthly calls where I guide our community through certain practices and certain experiences where they become more connected to their true self, which is their inner power and more wholeness. So I invite you to join or just check it out. There's a free option. You can join at the link in the show notes. All right, let's see. Is there anything else that wants to come through? Nope. I think that's it. I just like to check in with my intuition to make sure. All right. If this podcast served you in any way, I highly recommend you share it, you like it, you comment, you rate it, do whatever you can to support the podcast, because I'm starting this anew and I could use all the support I can get to reach more people and to help impact more people in a positive way. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you, and I'll see you next time.
One more thing. I just want to tell you, I love you, and I'm proud of you for doing the inner work, for showing up, and for choosing a truer life. If this episode resonated with you, if it helped you access a deeper truth within yourself, then please share it with someone you love, because the world needs more of us living our truer lives. If you're ready to go deeper, I would love to welcome you into the Becoming True membership. It's where we explore these truths in real time with meditations, healing sessions, and soul-aligned guidance and support to help you on your path to becoming true. You can join right now at the link in the bio. This has been a Truer Media production. The Truer podcast is created and produced by me, Katrina Slade. Music by Frequently Asked Music. Wordmark by Annika Samples of Incandescent Creative. Cover photography by Lucenda Richard. Time for the really short legal talk. This podcast is presented solely for educational purposes. I am your soul sister. I am a spiritual guide, but I am not a licensed physician, psychologist, or other qualified medical professional. I hope to see you again.